Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of WongDoody Life. This is our new series where we will be looking at WongDoody culture and creative craft through the lens of cool work and the people who bring their best, brightest, most creative selves to WongDoody every day. My name is Ariel Smith, Marketing Manager at WongDoody, and today we will be talking about the power of passion projects, a look behind the scenes with Mom Genes Fight PPD campaign. Before we get started, I want to invite everyone who's joining us to let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you have questions, feel free to pop those into the comments. Our colleague Jacqueline will be monitoring them as they come in, and we'll save about 15 minutes at the end of our program for a Q&A. And so now we can jump in to the meat of the show. So at WongDoody, we have a foundational value that we call using our superpowers for good. It's actually a value that Tracy Wong has championed since the beginning of the agency's time. And it's a thing we use to inspire ourselves to create better work. And what we mean when we say using our superpowers for good is that as people who are in marketing or advertising, we have tremendous power to influence people, to impact people's lives in a profound way. It's a superpower. It's a privilege. It's a responsibility. And so wherever we can, we look for ways to use our superpowers for good. And what that means practically is by finding projects that we can support that do good in the community. So with that, I'm excited to introduce you to our wonderful guests, Kinley Lagrange, AVP Senior Client Partner, and Jennie Moore, AVP Creative Director. Welcome. Thank you for coming. So I'd like to jump in first with you, Jennie, and I would like for you to take us through sort of the history of passion projects at WongDoody. Can you tell us some examples, how we got into them? Any juicy details you want to include?
Yes, awesome. Super excited to talk about this because, as Kinley and I will talk about, this is something near and dear to our hearts. You know, it's always been an important way for us to, we love what we do in helping our paying clients day to day, but it's so important to be able to balance that with helping bring awareness to important causes, or maybe helping people that might be in a dark place that need help. It's just it's heartwarming and affirming, and it inspires the rest of our work. So, a lot of the passion projects, push projects, we actually call them internally, that we have done are around gender equity and moms and women in the workplace. So this has been important because throughout WongDoody's history, and I am one of the long timers. I've been here off and on for 18 years, which is kind of hard to believe. When I started, there weren't as many women. Across the agency, there was good representation, kind of as in the general world of advertising. We probably had more women than were out in other agencies, but creative department, we didn't have a lot. Over the course of the last almost 20 years and, 30 years, almost 30 years that the agency has been around, we have definitely improved that. And gender equity has been a huge, important step for us and focus. And I'm really proud to say that right now we have 61% female representation in the agency and 73% female leadership from, associate vice president and up. Now, something that is worth mentioning is another one of our of WongDoody's values is constant improvement. So, this applies to our D&I efforts. And we currently have 22 people of color that work at WongDoody across our offices. 28% of our leadership are people of color. So we've made progress, but it's, we have a long way to go, and it's worth acknowledging that. So when I go back to past passion push projects that we've done, there are three that stand out. And these are all around, like I said, gender equity and women in the workplace. So the first one is called The Real 10. And in 2015, they were going to put a woman's face on the $10 bill to replace, I believe it was Jefferson. And although that in the end didn't end up happening, we created the real 10 because the reality was that, $10 for a woman was not the same as it was for $10 for a white male. So we asked women to upload a picture of themselves, put it on a $10 bill, and then select their ethnicity from a drop-down menu. And so for a white woman, it was $7.80 to a white American male. For an African-American woman is $6.30 to the $10 that would be for a white male. And this was a really simple, profound way to bring this disparity to life. Another project we did, this is near and dear to my heart, is called I Pumped Here. And this was around bringing awareness of the lack of clean, comfortable places for moms to pump breast milk when they went back to work. And we arrived on this cause because both from personal experience, from a lot of the moms in the office who had worked other places, for instance, I freelanced when the kids were really little, and I was at one place where there was one bathroom for 80 people, and that was where you had to pump, and nothing's going to shut you down faster than somebody knocking on the door in the middle of you're going to dry up really quick. So all to say, that was a big factor because we had all had this lived experience of having to deal with this. And then we also came up on this stat that 60% of moms didn't have clean private places to pump or adequate break time. So we partnered with this amazing nonprofit called Moms Rising to amplify this message of I Pumped Here. And we created these removable stickers that moms could put like on a bathroom stall or whatever heinous place they had to pump, snap a picture, upload it to the web. And so we had this social campaign that we put out into the world. But in addition to that, we were able to gather 13,000 signatures on a petition that Moms Rising took to Capitol Hill to help institute better regulations for employers to provide these places for moms to pump. So that was both an important and a very close to home project for a lot of us. And now today we're going to talk about our most recent one, which was Mom Genes Fight PPD, which was about bringing awareness to postpartum depression and helping find the cause and a cure. And I think Kinley's going to take it over from there.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in and just give a tiny bit of background before Kinley takes us through the origin story. But Mom Genes Fight PPD actually launched in February of 2020, just before the pandemic. And since then, it's won several awards. We were really excited to learn that yesterday we won a brand new award, a Silver Anthem, which is new from the Webbies, and it's an award that recognizes purpose and mission-driven work. So we're just super excited, really gratified that this campaign is still so important. So that's a wonderful segue. Kinley, can you take us into kind of like how did we get into this work in the first place?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. As Jennie said, it's really important for our agency with so many women in leadership and so many moms in leadership, which is really cool, that we're doing things that actually help moms and impact motherhood and women in general. When you support mom, you support so many other people. It's just a domino effect. And we specifically found a stat about postpartum depression. And wow, we were just blown over. It was that 1 in 7 and sometimes as many as 1 in 5 moms who give birth suffer from postpartum depression. And in the most severe cases, many women end up taking their lives. And it is a huge, huge statistic that not many people know about, not many people talk about. And, moms are often the foundation of their family. They're supposed to, carry on and be strong. And we wanted to do something to bring awareness to this. And our colleague, Laura Johansson, actually found out that they were doing a research study with DNA at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill under the guidance and leadership of Dr. Samantha Meltzer-Brody, who is a phenomenal woman. They were doing a study and had basically launched this study in which they needed to gather DNA samples. So they needed actual mothers who think that they had suffered with postpartum depression to provide a spit sample. And, I think at the time they had a very clinical name for it. They didn't have any budget. They were trying to figure out, how are we going to get these samples? They were nowhere near getting what they needed. And so when we talked with them, the first phone call was a million yeses, a million tears. Everyone was just like, oh, we really had come across kind of a diamond in the rough, if you will, of a project that really needed the amplification that we could provide it with using our superpowers for good. And I'm so thrilled that I got to personally be part of this and work with Jennie on it. And our team was just absolutely phenomenal, and could not have worked with better clients who to this day are still giving us updates. And their preliminary research paper is coming out this year because we were able to get them the samples that they needed in order to get some preliminary results published.
That is so exciting. I really love hearing how like all the right people, all the right circumstances come together. It's a tale of kismet. I love it. Something I always really enjoy hearing about is like how we, like the stories behind the creative, like how did we get to the campaign itself? And I was wondering, Jennie, if you could share something surprising that you learned along the way as we were developing the creative.
Yeah, this it was such a enlightening, also a really heavy project. I mean, postpartum depression is emotional and complicated, and it's been, not a lot of people have talked about it. And I think one of the biggest realizations that I had personally was I tended to view it as a mom of 2 kids. I tended to view it in a vacuum, that it affected moms and kids. You think of that small little that little bubble of the mom and the newborn and how it affects them. And the reality is, it, like most mental health diagnoses or issues, especially ones that are kept in the shadows, it affects everyone in that circle. The partners, the parents of the mom, the other kids, the siblings, the social circle. Especially if people don't have the language, they can tell something is wrong and they want to help, but they don't know how. Or if the mom doesn't even know. So it was just so striking and eye-opening to realize what a crisis this really was, and what an impact it was having on a larger portion. Like Kinley mentioned the stats. I mean, if you think 1 in 5 or 1 in 7, and then all the people within that circle, huge impact. So that was pretty profound. And then creatively, that kind of carries over. So if you would have told me before we started on this, or asked me who I wanted to work on this campaign, I would have said, well, it has to be all moms, because we're the only ones who really understand what this is like. And then taking that perspective of how this affects such a larger group of people, and then also the reality of, you can't always have everyone on the team with the lived experience of the people that you are trying to reach. That's just not always practical. It's very important to have moms on the team for sure at many stages throughout the process, but you can't have a whole team of moms. And in our case, our amazing creative team, Eric Hammond, Amy Matthew, and Vanessa Witter, none of them were parents. But they were able to approach the project from this perspective of both. They had moms, they had sisters, they had aunts, and friends, and either imagine them in that situation or just draw on the empathy that they gathered from reading these really powerful testimonials from a lot of the women that we read, that were just heart-wrenching. And some of them were joyful because, they had worked their way through, but they were really able to tap into the empathy that we needed to speak to our target. And so I think the fact that they were able to draw, that the team was able to draw from that and create amazing pieces, from the video to the pop-up store to hundreds of social posts to like the UI on the app, everything communicated in a way that was powerful and poignant and sometimes sweet and lighthearted in all the right ways. It was just really inspiring.
That's super cool. I know everything that I saw and read definitely pushed all of the buttons on my heart And so I would have never known, that the creative team wasn't a full team of moms. But I think it's exciting and it's really powerful that you have people who are parents and who are not working on this campaign. That seems really actually like a much better combination of skills and experiences. Kinley, I wanted to ask you the same question. Was there something surprising that you learned while you were on this campaign?
So many things. This was such a whirlwind of a campaign, and it's by far one of the most favorite things I've ever gotten to work on at WongDoody. And I would say that the biggest surprise for me was, Jennie mentioned that we actually redesigned the UI on the app, and the app's purpose was, it's how you qualify, to know whether you could participate in the study. So moms would download this awesome app and they would take this survey that's a standardized survey, Edinburgh postnatal survey, that would basically help you determine how severe your symptoms were when you had postpartum depression. And any woman, regardless of if they had their kids 40 years ago or 5 days ago, they could participate and take that quiz to kind of see where they were with their mental health. And so, of course, because we redesigned that, I had to get deep. I took the survey myself and I got on the other end of it, and I was like, oh, wow. I had symptoms. I had symptoms of postpartum depression. When I started working on this campaign, I had actually just had my second child 6 months prior, and I was back at work, and this was the first thing that I jumped in on. And, it was pretty mind-blowing, because I think that a lot of times as women, especially women like me, are fortunate to have such an incredible support system. You don't necessarily think about those feelings that much. It was so incredibly validating to understand that some of the things that I was dealing with after that, after giving birth to my son, weren't just stress, wasn't just, oh, you have 2 kids now, here's how hard it's going to be. There was actually chemically something going on with me. And, then to be able to say, wow, I am one of those people. I am part of that statistic. And then say, okay, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to get UNC the recruitment they need, the participation they need to find why this is happening, get them the DNA so that they can really uncover what's causing it, get that profile, and hopefully find a cure someday. So it was pretty unbelievable experience.
That's amazing. I find I'm also a parent. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I find as a parent, like there's too many things to know and to tell someone who's going to have a child. Like, I was like, oh, no one tells you anything. And then you have kids and you have to figure it out. But I think sometimes we don't talk about things. We don't have language for things. And so it's really exciting that this campaign kind of gives people a language to talk about. Like, it's more than maybe you're just sleep deprived. And originally I was going to ask you some more sort of general career questions, but as we're talking, it seems like our conversation is really centering more on like, what is it like to be a parent and a mother and a working parent? And so I wanted to ask both of you, what has been your experience personally at WongDoody as a mother, as a working parent? Maybe Jennie, you could hop in first.
All right. Well, yes, this has again, having been here for through the birth, and then my kids are now 12 and almost 16 next week, which is mind-boggling to me. So yes, the impact of having a supportive work environment through all of that has been really amazing. When I first started, I didn't have kids. And one of the things that I have always loved about WongDoody, and I tell this to all the new recruits, is WongDoody has always respected us as whole people with lives and families and pets and hobbies and all of the things that make us us, that then makes us unique. And then we're able to bring that to work, and that makes everything better for, internally and externally. And so, through the birth of both of my kids, and those hard years that come shortly after, both of you are you're kind of getting out of the thick of it. And at least from my perspective, it does get a little easier. But I mean, I think back to the days of coming in on 2 hours of sleep with spit up down my back, or, the 45-minute commute with a 4 and a 2-year-old in the back seats, literally screaming all the way in, and you're just so frazzled, and having this support system of other moms, and then just other people who are understanding and empathetic and sympathetic and laugh along with you, or point out the barf on your back, whatever it is. It's just a wonderful place to have to go through all that, because it is, it's kind of the rite of passage of parenthood. But I'm closer to sending my kids off to college than I am to kindergarten. And Lord help us all when that happens, because I'm going to be a bucket of puddles, and you guys, I'm just going to be a mess. But, I think the feelings, they're different, but they're the same. We're always dealing with, there's always a new, my daughter's going to be driving soon. And like, there's always stresses and things that you're dealing with, and to be surrounded by a group of people in an organization that are going to support you through that is just invaluable. And I think, as women and working parents, but especially as women, we tend to take on a lot of that, what they call invisible labor. So whether that means signing the permission slips, or making sure the gi is washed for the next karate test, or all those little things, there's that. And then there's the bigger stuff of dealing with, aging parents and extended family issues and health issues. My dad had Alzheimer's for about 5 years and passed away during a really busy time at work. And it was not unexpected, but of course it's traumatic and hard. And to have my team jump in and support me during that time. And then also when I was like, okay, I'm ready to jump back in on this. I want to shift my focus. I know it's soon, but I want to be in on it, and have them be like, okay, we're here for you. You can talk about it when you need it. We'll give you space. It was amazing. And I think knowing that you have the support and encouragement and of your coworkers who are also your friends is such a huge deal. And it's just comforting and affirming. And, the truth is you're kind of held, because there's going to be times in your life when you're not strong enough to hold yourself up on your own. So knowing that is there is pretty incredible. And I think creatively, as a writer and as a creative director, that has been really huge as well, because one of the biggest enemies of creativity is fear and stress. And so knowing that net is there to catch you, doesn't take all the stress away, because you still have to deal with the stuff, but it just gives you the freedom to know that you can step back or take a little time, and that people are going to be understanding of that. And then that opens you up. So it opens you up as a creative. It opens me up as a creative director to support my team when I see that they need that space. And I think just that freedom allows us to find, joy and meaning in our work, and then just create better everything, whether that's the work or relationships with each other or our clients. And it's just such a, I don't use this term lightly, but such a loving, supportive environment that it's just amazing.
You're crying, aren't you?
No, not at all. Of course, a little bit.
Oh, Jennie and I have shared so many
without
wonderful tears, the tears of joy, the tears of sorrow. I love that about our relationship. And I have that with so many of my colleagues. And God, I echo so much of what you're saying, Jennie. And so when I had my first child, I was pregnant at the same time as my boss, Skylar Matson, and she's now the president of the company. She was having her third child, and I was having my first. So of course she's like, "It's a breeze! I love pregnancy. This is awesome!" Because if you know Skylar, she is one of the most positive people you'll ever meet. But also, she took so much weight off of me, because I realized if she can do it, and she can do it 3 times in a row and still have this awesome career and still manage, that meant there was, some hope for me on my first child. So I felt really lucky in that from the get-go. I was incredibly supported. I had somebody to commiserate with, to ask questions to. That's an experience that is not everybody gets that experience. And I value that a lot. And then, I come back from maternity leave with my first and second, really, because we've been working on passion projects that impact women for so long. It's cool to leave your home life and you care about your family and you're passionate about your kids and being a mother. And then you come to work and you're able to also express some of that passion and help others and do what you do for a living at the same time with projects like The Real 10 and projects like I Pumped Here and Mom Genes. It's incredibly fulfilling.
Oh, so many feelings. I love it. I love it. New parenthood is an incredibly vulnerable time. And I think everyone sort of knows that in their head, but when you go through it, that's true for other life seasons, even if you're not a parent, there are times where you're carrying a lot. It's amazing to be able to carry that alongside your coworkers. So thank you. Thank you for all of your stories. I've been keeping an eye on the comments. We have some wonderful questions, and so I think this is a great time to jump into our Q&A, and our colleague Jacqueline can pop up some of those questions for us to jump into. So our first one comes from Stephanie. Were there other barriers that you had to overcome in the creative to get people to submit their DNA for research?
Oh, yeah, I can speak to this one. Definitely. I mean, DNA some people think of it as their most prized possession. And our country has a history of, there's just atrocities that have happened over the years that made people distrust healthcare and specifically research. And so absolutely, I think that was something that came into consideration, which is why at every turn our communications were incredibly transparent on how we were using the DNA, how it was anonymous. Basically, once you got through the study or got through the survey and knew that you could participate in the study and were about to you'd have your spit kit mailed to you at home. At that point, you became a number. You were in no way, shape, or form was your identity or personal information linked to the spit from there on. And the actual DNA is destroyed once it is used for the sequencing purpose. So we had to get really smart on how the DNA was used so we could properly explain it, not only in just our campaign materials and the website and whatnot, but it came up a lot as we were managing their social presence. People want to know, and we wanted to have answers for them. So absolutely a huge barrier, and transparency and communication really helped. Thanks for your question, Stephanie. I think
I muted myself. Our next question is from Eugene. Any thought to extending maternity leave to be more in line with how much time moms get in Europe, perhaps as a solution? So.
Do we have HR? Can HR step in?
Yeah, exactly.
Answer this question for us. I can't imagine Jennie and I would disagree on how.
I love that idea, Eugene.
Yeah. I will say I think we get up, my youngest is 4, so it's been a little while, but we get up to 4 months, which was more than almost everyone I know. Even my aunt, who's a doctor, cannot get more than 6 weeks of maternity leave, which was shocking to me. So I will say, at least at WongDoody, while our maternity leave is not as long as in Europe, it's longer than many of our peer companies. And then the re-entry back into work is always a very gentle, thoughtful process. You're encouraged to start like on a Thursday and fold yourself back in slowly. And Jennie mentioned the I Pumped Here campaign. I'd like to say that our office has a hospital grade pump and a pumping room with a lock and a sound machine. And it's this is actually just makes such a huge world of difference. And then we also have some other perks, like if you are a traveling parent. I know that Kinley, you can speak to this because you have some don'ts.
Yeah. So after I had my children, obviously it doesn't mean that I'm not going to travel for shoots anymore, just because it's more my family life got more complicated. So traveling for work, for speaking engagements or for TV shoots or whatever it was, WongDoody actually paid to have my child come with me, paid to have my mother or my mother-in-law, or whoever was able to provide the support, flown into the city I'd be at and put them up in the hotel with me so that they could take care of my baby during the day and I could pump or nurse as my schedule allowed. And then they were incredibly great about helping me find clean, safe, door locking places to pump while I'm on set and while I'm in these sometimes really odd situations where you're like, I don't know how I'm going to manage all this. And did it take the weight off. Man, I mean, I just thought, oh, I'm going to have to pump extra and hope that they get through or whatever. And, I felt really lucky because I was able to stick to my personal plan because WongDoody allowed me that grace. They were able to give that to me. And so it took a huge weight off.
The simplification of logistics is incredible. Like it's really a deal maker. Yeah, I think we certainly have time for another question if there are any more. This is from Kelly. Have there been any findings or discussions around how the fathers or partners support their partner after learning their partners have postpartum depression?
Yeah, fathers were really interesting. Jennie, I don't know if you want to speak to this, or I'm happy to take it.
I'll let you take it. I think you have more of the stats.
Yeah, well, so fatherhood is obviously incredibly important. When you are living with a spouse and you're going through postpartum depression, oftentimes just having them be more aware of this is something that could happen once the baby and the mother come home from the hospital, and to look for the cues of, is she feeding herself? Is she able to is she crying a lot? Is she, connecting with her baby, or does she seem scared or have fear or anxiety about things that, motherhood can be scary, especially when it's your first child. But when you get to that point that you're acting kind of out of character for yourself, those are huge signs. And there's so many more. And having a support system, whether it's the father or a partner or whatever that person, that support system looks like, having them be aware that this is something you might go through and being able to be part of the conversation and helping you heal is so critical. We actually built some creative for the social campaign that was focused on dads, because dads can fight PPD too. They can be part of the solution just in the support that they can give.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing too about the outreach. Normally you would think, okay, well, if you want DNA from moms, you're going to target moms, but you do need that encouragement. We heard from so many people that it was, the aunts or the moms or the grandmas or the husbands or the spouses and partners who were encouraging their wives, moms, to participate in the study because they had heard about it. So, it's one of those things where, again, it's a bigger aperture in order to reach the goal, because it does affect so many people.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's amazing. It's amazing where your support group can come from. It's often your partner, but it's all the people around you. So that's amazing. We're kind of running out of time. Do we have another question? Okay, excellent. Eugene, what advice would you give to women who don't have women in leadership where they work? That's a good question.
Ooh, I will take this one because when I began, I didn't have women in leadership where I worked, but I did have some amazing men in leadership where I worked. And so, as important as it is to have those female mentors, and I think it is good to search them out in other places, don't overlook a kind and inclusive and thoughtful male mentor who can help you in that situation. I think I always feel like I was so lucky to work with Tracy Wong and John Schofield, who was my creative director for so many years. John was the youngest of four and had three sisters, and that was always very apparent, just his sensitivities. But I think looking outside of your company, or sometimes even your industry, for inspiration, guidance is helpful. I also, I am a big proponent of, we talk about mentors, but I think you can also learn a lot from people that are younger than you in the industry. There are so many women that inspire me daily who are much younger than I am. And so I look and see what they're doing now in their roles. And it's kind of like that I want to be you when I grow up. I mean, it's really easy to see that going both directions. So first of all, I guess I would say look for people outside of your industry if they're not right near you, and then also don't feel like it has to be a woman, because there are some really amazing male allies out there that are there to help raise us up.
That's wonderful. I see one more question from Danielle just now. What advice do you have for people that are early on in their career that want to pursue passion projects but are still climbing the corporate ladder? That's a great question.
I can answer this one. I think that one thing that I always tried to do in my career is work for companies where I felt like I could be my best self, or that their values and their kind of approach to work was in line with what I was passionate about. And what I found in WongDoody was that I didn't have to go far or dig deep or have too many conversations to get things started when it came to passion projects. It really was already an initiative. It was already something, and I was able to just kind of jump on the train and say, this is what I want to do. This is something that is meaningful. So if you're earlier on in your career, I would say look for companies that have really great philanthropic initiatives where it aligns with your values. If there's, a lot of companies have specific organizations that they do really great work with. And I think that those things are really good to understand and find out when you're in the interview process, because there might be opportunities that they don't mention when you're interviewing. And specifically in advertising, I feel like I just love that WongDoody has made it part of their mission to not just service paying clients and not just focus on, what is the revenue at the end of the day, but they actually want to make a bigger impact. And, that comes from the top down. And I feel really lucky to have been a part of so many of those initiatives in the 8+ years that I've been at WongDoody.
I would say don't be afraid to start your own as well. And granted that depends on the company that you're working with, but a lot of times people don't think of it, or they don't have time. And if you take the initiative and you start something that you're passionate about, you're probably going to gather a group of people who share that passion. And then who knows, you may get complete buy-in at the top, but it's just they didn't think of it. So don't let that stop you.
Thank you, everyone, for all these great questions. I don't see any more. So before we close, I did want to invite everyone who's in our audience today to join us again on March 8th, which is International Women's Day. We're going to be doing a special 2-part Follow the Sun panel where we'll be talking about how different generations of women experience the work world, from women in their 20s to women in their 50s, and how we can learn from each other and support each other. We'll be featuring WongDoody women from all of our 4 regions. So first India and Asia Pacific, then followed by Europe and North America. So stay tuned to our LinkedIn channel for more information soon. Kinley, Jennie, thank you so much for sharing so many stories, personal stories. I'm going to need a minute to recover from everything. And we look forward to our next episode and hope everyone can join us on March 8th. Thanks again.